But I think he's gone in there and I think he's been shocked at how bad this group of players are.
But how is there that gap between what the analysts will have done from his side and from Manchester United's side
Kelly,
before?
the only thing I'd say, I still think you don't know a group of players or their qualities until you actually get in the door and start working with them. Of course you're on the outside looking in. You do your little bit of homework. Of course you do. You look at players and you'll have a bit of pride and ego to think, I can improve these players, I can make them better. That's a manager's job. And they brought in some players. But I think over the last couple of years, and before, obviously, this manager came in, I'm not putting it all on him, a lot of the recruitment was bringing players in who've never played in the Premier League. And I think it seems to have cut a lot of them out. They can't seem to cope with the demands, the physical side of the game. The lack of goals is a huge problem for Man United, because usually you look at Man United over the years and think, well, there'll be some sort of entertainment, they'll score goals, they'll get at it.
We'll get back to Roy in just a quick second, but remember, if you like this video, please like, share and subscribe, and don't forget to click the notification button so that you know when the next Big D video hits. And as ever, if something is on your mind, if something is bubbling up inside of you that you need to express, please express it in the comments. The Big D reads all of the comments and he's always interested in what is on your mind. Anyway, in this clip, it's going to be Roy Keane reacting, as he always does, to Manchester United's latest dismal performance, this time versus Newcastle United, which the Big D watched as well. He watched as well, so stick around for after the clip, after Roy's had his little moan, because the Big D is going to be giving his thoughts on today's game. Here's Roy.
He came in when they were in 12th. They're now in 14th at the end of, pretty much the end of this round of fixtures. Have you seen positives from Ruben Amorim's time at Man United?
Not at the moment. You mentioned there nobody likes to lose games. Of course not, but sometimes it's the way you lose. It's the way they gave up some of the goals in the second half. Obviously some mistakes from players, losing possession. Obviously you knew Newcastle were going to put you under pressure, obviously. So that's the big hang-up you'd have. They've lost 14 league games, and they lost 14 last season. So that's why you have to point the finger at this group of players. No, the only defence I have, obviously, for a lot of the players, is a lot of them are still new to the Premier League. And the manager's new to the Premier League. I think the manager, if you spoke to him, I think he's scratching his head. He's frustrated in that interview, of course. He wants to focus on the next game, but you also have to reflect on the game today. That's where we're at. I bet you he can't believe how bad the United team is. I bet he's obviously can't say that, and he's talking about recruitment this summer. But this group of players, the mistakes they're making, I've mentioned at the end of the game, they can't seem to get around the pitch. There's no power in the team. Some of the players who can run, I think there's some players who can run, but they don't want to run. That's another worry. Some of the goals they gave up, you got to experience right back, just letting somebody run by him. Now that's the bit I would be frustrated with. But I think the Premiership has caught this manager and his coaching staff out. Even his first game where we covered was down at Ipswich, and Ipswich drew with him, and Ipswich probably could have won it near the end. And I bet you was thinking, this is tough. And I know people do their homework, and these coaches and staff and obviously players do the homework before they go to a club. But I think he's gone in there and I think he's been shocked at how bad this group of players are.
But how is there that gap between what the analysts will have done from his side and from Manchester United's side
Kelly,
before?
the only thing I'd say, I still think you don't know a group of players or their qualities until you actually get in the door and start working with them. Of course you're on the outside looking in. You do your little bit of homework. Of course you do. You look at players and you'll have a bit of pride and ego to think, I can improve these players, I can make them better. That's a manager's job. And they brought in some players. But I think over the last couple of years, and before, obviously, this manager came in, I'm not putting it all on him, a lot of the recruitment was bringing players in who've never played in the Premier League. And I think it seems to have cut a lot of them out. They can't seem to cope with the demands, the physical side of the game. The lack of goals is a huge problem for Man United, because usually you look at Man United over the years and think, well, there'll be some sort of entertainment, they'll score goals, they'll get at him. But with 15, 20 minutes ago, this game was over. United fans must be looking, scratching their heads going, this game is over. There's no way we're getting back in this. We've only scored the one goal. We don't score many. If anything, it was going how many you concede. And then we took the players' decision-making. We have a goalkeeper coming in today. It's difficult to get up to speed for a goalkeeper, particularly making saves. But in terms of playing out from the back and taking chances, to me, that's just madness. That's just common sense. That's just your football knowledge. Why take chance at Newcastle where you're under the cosh? You're trying to chip balls into the middle of the park. That's where you have to look at the players and go, look, lads, give us a bit of a chance. And as I said, there's nothing wrong with losing football matches. The great teams lose football matches, But sometimes it's the way you lose it. And that second half, particularly from United, nowhere near good enough. It's easy for a manager to say, let's focus on Thursday. No, you have to look at today. This group of players, bit of fight, bit of spirit. They're lacking in quality, they're lacking pace, they're lacking power. But my goodness, show some fight. They didn't do that enough in the second half.
Just to pick up on the point that you're making about the players, because when Amorim came in, he came in with a great reputation of not just dealing with young players and developing them, but also of kind of older players where he was reinventing them or giving them a new lease of life. And it was widely praised for his tactical prowess. There was a lot said about the system that he wanted to play and questions asked as to whether Man United players would be able to do that. If he's not getting the message across, does that say something about the players' ability to take on instruction?
A bit of both. I think there's nothing wrong with a manager having his set ways and his philosophy, shall we say. But I played under some managers, but also you have to adapt. If you're working with a group of players and if you're constantly losing football matches, I know he's hanging his hat on Thursday's game against Leon, and he's thinking that'll get him out of jail really for the club getting the Champions League. But if you're losing week in, week out, or losing 14 league matches and there's still a few to go, you must sit with your staff and say to yourself, listen, it's well and good again having your mindset, but someone must say, but can we tweak it? Can we change it a little bit? Because if you keep getting beaten, and again, it's on the back of last season, obviously that's not all in this manager, then something's wrong. The players can't cope with it. There's players playing for Man United today. I go back to Eriksen. United's midfield, they're not mobile. They can't go around the pitch. Newcastle's midfield was more powerful. They were stronger. They were getting stronger as the game was going on. But Eriksen should have left Man United maybe 1 or 2. United's still going back to the players who I think are a major problem. Are these good players? I think some of them are. But are they good enough for Man United? Absolutely not. And sometimes, actually, that's not on the players. That's on the club for throwing them in there. You're throwing young lads into there. You're bringing Shaw back into the group and you're hoping 1 or 2 of these senior players will help. But the signs are, again, I go back, we done the game last week. My eyes don't lie to me. I'd love to be sitting here watching Man United win a 2 or 3 and I go, listen, I love everything about them. They've got pace, they've got power, they've got quality, they've got characters, they've got an outstanding goalkeeper, the spine is fantastic, amazing bench. United have none of that. Almost the opposite to what Newcastle had today. That's how far they're off it.
Yeah, Man United were shocking today. I don't think there's any surprise, really, from the way Man United performed. They didn't play a full-strength team for a start. They didn't have anything to play for as well. Newcastle had a little bit more edge as well. I mean, and to be fair, they are a better side than Man United at the moment, obviously, because they're a lot more well-drilled. They've got something to play for. They've got something to prove. Man United are just crap in the league. We are just in a weird purgatory-style situation. So, I mean, it's all well and good for Roy Keane, to give it the bigging about where's the pride, and all this kind of stuff. But Man United's league situation is over. It's over. If you don't have that extra sort of mentality of trying to get that 3 points, then and the other team, if they're chomping at the bit to get into the Champions League, for instance, then they're always going to have the edge, and especially when they've come off the back of a trophy win as well. So spirits are high. I expected Man United to get beat today, to be quite frank. There's just nothing to play for in the league. We're not going to get relegated. We're not going to get European football through the league. We're not going to finish top 4. We're not going to win the league. So it's just kind of, it's almost like, I don't know how many games are left, maybe 8 league games are left. It's almost like 8 friendlies for Manchester United. And I know that's terrible to say. I do get that. I genuinely do. And part of me does agree with Roy in that maybe we should be doing a little bit better, showing a little bit more fight. Because of the fans, obviously, the travelling fans and all that good stuff. But it's hard when you've got nothing to play for and when the other team have got everything to play for, because this is a big season for Newcastle right now, because they've got fancy rich owners themselves as well, so they've got a good side and they want to sort of climb the footballing pyramid too. So a lot is hinging on them getting into the Champions League for the first time in however many years. So they're always going to have that extra edge, and they did play really well today. They were fighting for everything, and they've got some really skillful players. And Sandro Tonali is absolutely majestic what is he doing at Newcastle United? No offence, Newcastle, but he's too good for you guys. He should be at Real Madrid or Barcelona. I was gutted when you lot signed him. I really was, because he's just absolutely amazing. But I mean, all credit to Newcastle. They played really well. Man United were crap. We went at full strength. We were just kind of in autopilot mode. I was sorry to see Xerxes get injured. I hope he's all right. I'm not entirely sure what the situation is with him at the moment. But as I say, I hope he's all right, because he's turned into a really good player. I mean, there was a couple of moments there, with his link-up play, and he's just class. He's just so skillful, and he's like a gazelle, just kind of gliding along the grass there at times. And he can finish, and he's a big, strong lad as well, and he seems to have sort of a good head on his shoulders as well. He's got a little bit of a fight. I'm expecting him to sort of kick on a lot more. Garnacho scored. It was a nice enough finish. I was surprised it went in, really. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It was just a weird game. It was just a weird game. Man United were just on autopilot. We were just on autopilot. I felt a bit bad about Bayinda with his howler. Because United don't have a lot of luck with goalkeepers at the moment. So that was a bit silly. From his part there with that pass. I don't even know what he was trying to do there, to be quite frank. So that was very unfortunate. But it is what it is. United got pumped. We were probably lucky that it was only 4-1. It is what it is. Roll on Thursday. It's really difficult to say anything that I haven't already said before. It's almost like Man United, they might as well just forfeit the rest of these league games at times, if we didn't have to sort of maintain a certain level of match fitness, because they're just pointless games. They really are. I don't even know who we've got there. I'm going to have to check to see who we've got in the remaining 8 games. We've got Villa at some point as well. So that'll be interesting, especially if they're still fighting for the top 4 at that point. And Marcus Rashford will be coming back to Old Trafford. I wondered if there's a clause in his contract that he's not allowed to play while he's still under contract at Man United. So, that'll be interesting to see. But hey ho, what did you guys think of today's game against Newcastle? You see any positives at all? What do you think Amorim was thinking with his lineup today? I think he was probably thinking that, he's got a big, decisive game against Lyon on Thursday. But hey ho, you know what to do. Thoughts in the comments, and the big deal. See you in the next one.